Coming up this week on Beyond the Vibe, we have Nathan James of Inglorious.
I wrote this chorus about horses, and I was like, okay, who rides a fucking horse? I was like, I've written a line about horses. I'm not writing about cowboys. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to write... No, I've got to write about someone way more badass than that. That's that kid from YouTube. And he's like, hey, I'm coming to watch the show tonight. And he was so cute and so little. And I just remember thinking, God, this kid's amazing. What a super freak of a person. He told me this after I said yes. He was like, by the way, I'm so glad you liked my playing. He was like, I haven't actually played these songs on a kit yet.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Vibe, the show that cuts deep into the world of music.
My name is Aaron Day, I'm lead guitarist in UK band These Wicked Rivers, and I'm here with the one, he's the only, his videographer, Mr. Ryan Vasey. What are we doing this week, Mr. Vasey?
This week, as people will notice, who do follow us, we're on a Friday.
Yes, it's a different day.
Yes.
See, I'm screwed
strange.
on, man, I am.
It's a different day, and it's a different day because we are having a album release day special episode, centering around Inglorious's new album, We Will Ride, which is, as we by the time this is released, it will be out.
Yes.
So
I'm very excited.
Exciting time.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one. I mean, when we spoke to Danny, which is one of the first interviews that we kind of did as BTV, it was. At the time that first single had come out, She Won't Let You Go, and immediately me and you were pretty locked into the sound, you know, that was coming together, particularly that two guitar, you know, bringing in the dual guitar sound, because Dan and Danny seem to both have really great pedigree, and obviously like Danny in particular, like, I'm a massive fan of his playing. You know, he seems to have brought a lot more to the band, with no discredit to what's come before, you know, but it does feel like with most bands, I mean, this is the fourth album. So it's kind of like, you know, it should feel like it's kind of...
It's a big album, isn't it?
It is really, yeah. In terms of the band, I mean, what album did you come into kind of get locked into Inglorious? Because I didn't really get into them until probably maybe a year ago, really.
Yes, I was going to say, like, I've dipped in and out of Inglorious. I've kind of followed them along the way. My dad's been really invested in them. He's well into them, and like I've kind of had like a gradual build. Very similar to Rival Sons for me.
Yeah.
I had the same thing with them. There's like this gradual build, and I feel now that they've really hit a different level this time. I think that they may have finally hit like a really solid chemistry and a really solid like all round thing. Like everything's right across the board now, which. For a lot of bands, never really happens. No. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, and for me in particular, like I'm a big fan of the mix. You know, we'll explore that with Nathan as part of the interview coming up shortly. You know, it's for me. I think Ramesh is real nailed down sort of the best way to put that Inglorious sound across. Yeah, it's the ultimate classic rock mix for me. So yeah, you know, I feel that similar to you. Hopefully, it's that climactic point for them. Maybe not climactic, more that kind of the ultimate sort of portrayal of where they're at this point in the
I mean, when I say finally hit, I'm saying like I feel like they've hit the pinnacle. Like I feel like they're the complete package now,
and can move forward maybe as that complete force.
Yeah, that thing now.
Interesting time for it as well, isn't it? Because it's not like normally you'd come out with an album, a big album, you know, great reviews, and then it'd be like, right, take this out on the road, maybe get a big support, you know. Whereas obviously they can't do any of that.
No, it's a different thing, and it's going to be interesting to hear what Nathan has planned for it all, because it's. You know, you're going to have to diversify in some kind of way and come up with something that you would never usually have to do. So, yes.
Diversify. Yeah. Oh, that's you've shit on me with that word, haven't you? I only know xylophone bigger than that. I can't really slip that into conversation. So, on that note, we'll now listen to our interview with Mr. Nathan James.
Yes.
So we're here with Nathan James, lead singer from Inglorious, for an album launch special as we celebrate the release of their fourth album, We Will Ride. Thanks for coming on, Nathan.
Thank you for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's cool. So let's go like right back to the beginning. For you, what was like the first moment you can remember that you knew you wanted to be a singer?
I was 10 years old, and my headmaster at school kind of pointed out that I could sing. Because I was just really loud in assembly. You know, you're all singing hymns in assembly. My hymns were like loud and in tune. So he kind of said to my parents that he's quite good at singing. You want to pursue it, really. And he put me forward for a concert in front of 1,500 people. And I got a solo. And in that moment, like when you see me walk out on stage when I was like 10, 11 years old, you see the moment that I'm like, I love this. Like, I loved everything about it. I loved the lights and the band. It was with an orchestra as well. So it was just, yeah, in that moment, I kind of knew that it's what I wanted to do. But very much not in the rock vein. I went off to be a choir boy after that. So yeah, a bit different.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a good first challenge though, because it's like, I mean, 1,500 people for like your first, even though it's obviously like with a school choir, your first gig pretty much. You know, it's a good first test, and it seems like even in that moment you were like, no, this is, you just rose to it straight away.
I wasn't particularly, I wasn't particularly bright at school, and my parents were kind of like, oh. At least he's found something. Do you know what I mean? So they were quite keen that I was good at something because my grades at school were dreadful.
But it's nice though. I mean, I had a similar thing as a guitarist. You know, it's nice when you're, particularly at that age, when you're trying to find your identity pretty much. You know, I think that's the biggest thing at school. That's the biggest challenge. You see loads of people running away with different things, and you start to get a bit scared about where your path's going to come from. And there's a really wonderful moment, particularly with music, when it just comes to you and it's like, oh, this is who I'm going to be, you know. So it's nice you had that euphoric moment and then that immediate confirmation of that as well afterwards.
Yeah, I love it. I fell in love with singing really before I fell in love with music, I suppose, because it's the singing that made me feel good. It was actually making noise that made me feel amazing and made me. I was bullied at school, like lots of people. I was a very camp, chubby child, so it was tricky. School life was tricky for me. So once I had that thing that I knew I was really confident in, no one could take that away from me. You know, like so. Yeah, it kind of helped me definitely in that respect.
No, that's cool, man. It feels like at that point you'd finally found your voice, because I know for a lot of people when they're being bullied and stuff, you know, you kind of feel like you've got no way of really expressing yourself and you can end up a bit trapped, you know. So it's cool that was your passageway into that, you know. So for a lot of rock fans, the first time they would have heard your signature voice, you know, or what became your signature voice from that moment, you know, from the choir days, you know, would have been on an unexpected platform in some ways through the ITV show Superstar, in which you made quite a big impact, and obviously BBC's The Voice. In many ways, this gave you a great platform to connect with a lot of rock fans that otherwise wouldn't have been reachable. I mean, we had Kim Jennett on last week, and she spoke a lot about the same thing. Loads of people were reaching out to her because she'd been on The Voice, and a lot of rock fans, you know, I think we have this thing where it's like, oh, you know, he's one of us. He's one of us, you know, like we kind of joked about with Kim. Did this then provide a stepping stone towards, obviously, you working with Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Yeah, so when I was on The Voice and I didn't get through, I was approached by TSO to join the band.
Right.
They flew me over to America for a big audition, like picked me up in a limo, like it was like really showbiz kind of time. I sung for 10 minutes and I was there for 5 days. It was ridiculous.
That's mental.
And then when I got back from there, I was like, okay, I've been offered this other TV show, so if I don't win, I'll be in TSO. They were like, okay, well, let us know as soon as you can. And the day after I got kicked off of Superstar, they flew me out to America pretty much. I got my visa at the US Embassy. They paid for all that. And then they flew me to America and I started a 50-date US arena tour. Wow. So the TV kind of kickstarted that because they wouldn't have discovered me without YouTube, you know? And they saw me not get through on The Voice and thought, well, he's not doing anything. So so that's kind of how it happened that way, yeah. And like with Kim, like it does open you up to so many people, and so many people that love our music discovered saw me on there and went, "Oh, this finally! Like finally, there's a dude on here who sings rock and roll. He's got long hair. He's got tattoos. Like you say, you felt like one of us." And then when it didn't happen, it was obviously like at the moment it was crushing. But what I did get to take away from that was a huge bunch of fans that are still my fans to this day. And we're talking like probably 9 years ago now. I think it's 9 years, coming up 10 years. And when I went to our record label and we got our deal, I could say, look, here's a mailing list of 20,000 people that are interested in what I'm doing. And that's why it becomes helpful. You know, like reality TV is not the ideal route down, but unfortunately, where the world is working. And I don't want to be one of those bitter people that sat at home being like, oh, they're getting all this stuff happen, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. I'd rather give it a go myself. And yeah, if you can't beat them, join them, you know?
It's a good approach.
Yeah. Moving on to like what most people will know you for. Inglorious, of course, were formed in 2014. Where were you at this point in your career, and like how did it all come together, like as like the musicians to like lay that first foundation for like where you are now?
I did my first TSO tour, and on the tour I was kind of like thinking, God, this is great, like playing these arenas and singing these songs with this amazing band, but it would be so much better if it was singing my own stuff and singing original stuff rather than singing something that another guy has sung, 20 guys have sung before you. So I got a manager, and then I got scouted by a guy called Derek Shulman, he's the guy that signed Bon Jovi, and he signed Nickelback and loads of these bands. And he sat me down for a meeting. He was our A&R guy, and he said, look, who are your heroes? And I was like, Robert Plant, Freddie Mercury, Steven Tyler, David Coverdale. And he said, no one you listed was a solo artist. He said, they're all frontmen of wicked bands. And I said, you're entirely right. I want to be a frontman. So we then set about finding the lineup. I held worldwide auditions. People were sending incredible people. I had a message from do you know the gospel drummer Aaron Spears?
No, I don't know.
Plays for like Usher and Christina Aguilera, right?
Oh wow,
Oh, that's mad.
At the time, because I'd just been on the TV, and he was like, hey man, I saw Ash Sohn was like saying this dude's looking for a drummer, you're really good, checked you out, you're great, I'd be interested in like just what mad people like from all over the world. And then I held the auditions up in Manchester over a weekend, and I found the guys, like as soon as they walked in I knew they were right. Everyone in the lineup was just a phenomenal musician, and I knew from day one that it was going to be special. And then we went about writing the album, and then we put it out a couple of years later. When you say 2014, I feel so old. Like that's so long ago.
Bless you, man. You're looking good, Dave. You're all right. You're all right.
Light. I've got a really good light.
No, that's cool. I bet it's weird looking back though, you know. And I think it was probably at that. I bet it was good for you at that point to have all them amazing people interested in wanting to work for you, because it kind of reaffirmed that this was the right path for you to have that platform to express yourself. Yeah,
and it was kind of getting people to want to play with me was easy, because at the time I'd just been on TV, so everyone. When you can send someone a video of you and go, hey, do you want to join my band? And the video's had 1 million views or something. It was easy for them to go yes. Because if you want to play rock and roll in the UK in a band, it's hard to have an outlet like that. You know, it's hard to have someone who's got that kind of fan base already in place. And one of the guys even moved back. He'd moved to Denmark, and he moved back to join the band after he auditioned. Yeah, and Phil Beaver, this is a cool story. My drummer Phil, who's been in the band the whole time, he hadn't really played drums for like 10 years. He kind of retired from drumming, became a plasterer, and before that, he was signed to Mick Fleetwood's label when he was 13 years old. So he's incredible, and then he totally gave it up. And the reason he came back into the band is because his friend was like, I'm going to this audition, and the guy's a good singer, like, you should definitely come. And he came that day, and he's still here. He's the
Oh, that's cool, man.
yeah. So he actually didn't even play. He told me this after I said yes. He was like, by the way, I'm so glad you liked my playing. He was like, I haven't actually played these songs on a kit yet.
Oh, God.
I was like, confident MF. He literally came to the audition and he said he'd played them on pillows in his bedroom because he didn't have a kit set up.
Wow, that's an awesome story. I love that. Fair play.
So confident. I love that.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. So obviously, like, from that point, you quickly gained recognition from the rock world. Led to tours with Dead Daisies, Winery Dog, Steel Panther. Like, amazing progression in such a short space of time. I think them sort of supports are exactly what you want when you've kind of just come onto the scene. There were kind of lineup changes along the way, including quite a major shift before the release of your third album, Ride to Nowhere. I mean, for yourself, Nathan, was this a difficult time for you having to make all these adjustments, finding new people and changing the sound a bit? Because on the face of it, it appears that you actually made a positive out of it, you know, reinventing the band with the dual guitars that you've now got now.
Yeah, I'm not going to harp on or make it like a sob story, but when 3 guys left in a day to pursue other things, they all wanted to start their own bands, and the best of luck to them, because as we know, this is a very hard industry to start afresh in. It was the ultimate like kick in the balls, because everything we'd worked on for all those years, I felt was being taken away from me. And at the time, I was about to go on tour with the War of the Worlds, and I had to put together a band lineup and promote a tour and an album when I had no band. And I was on tour with the War of the Worlds, playing the O2 Arena and Birmingham like NEC and Manchester MEN Arena. I was playing the biggest venues in the country. Every day I'm like stressed about doing the show. I was sending emails. I was trying to find a bass player. It was insane. That time in my life, I lost a stone in like 2 weeks because I didn't eat. I was so stressed. And looking back now, after hearing all the positive reactions from this album, it was clearly the right thing and the thing that had to happen. The boys wanted to do their own things. That's apparent. They've all gone and done their own things. And I have always needed people in this band who are 100% focused on this band. I left the Trans-Siberian Orchestra to make this band happen. If you're not willing to give me 100%, you don't expect it from me, because you have to be in it to win it. And this bunch of guys I've got now came in and filled those big shoes, you know, like they were very popular members, the past members, so they felt the pressure and they just brought it. They absolutely stepped up to the plate and embraced the fact that people were going to be looking at them under a like fine-tooth comb, you know. They were going to be like proper listening to that playing and listening to those solos and tone and everything else. And to see the reaction they're getting is what's making me the happiest. I knew this would be a great album. Every Inglorious album has gone up a step, in my opinion. And to know that this is our greatest album and it's with these guys is just so cool. I'm so happy. In comparison to where I was 2 years ago, like it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, so speaking of that, of course, here we are now in February 2021, and as this episode comes out, it'll be on release day. So I'm sure, as you just said there, you're incredibly proud of the new album. We spoke with Danny a while back, and he was really positive around that whole chemistry and relationship as a whole. Do you feel like the album is now like the best representation of yourself and Inglorious at this point?
Yeah, for sure. Lyrically, I really dug very deep, which I've never done to this extent. I've written some quite personal songs, but there's a couple of songs in here, My Misery, which is about that kind of moment 2 years ago when I had 3 guys leave the band in the day. Every single person online had made up in their mind that I was some sort of ogre and I was receiving death threats. And Danny was receiving racial abuse after I announced him in our lineup, which is just...
That's terrible, man.
In the rock community, I was just so disturbed and disgusted. And all sorts of things. The abuse was terrible. And I remember when I literally drank coffee for like 2 weeks and was ill. And I just felt like I just didn't want to... I didn't want to do it anymore. I'd worked so hard, and because of what someone else does, I ended up kind of paying for it, and that really hurt. So there's a song about that, My Misery, which is when I was at my lowest. And there's another song on there called Eye of the Storm, which I wrote with my friend Tim, who I've known for over 10 years now. And he got a lyric out of me that I never thought I'd ever be able to write and speak about, and it's about kind of that inner battle with myself, you know. It's that fine line that I've always wavered between what people perceive as cocky and arrogant, and just being confident. And like I said at the beginning, I've been singing in front of thousands of people since I was 10 years old. Like, I know that's one thing I do know I can do. The rest I'm still learning, you know, being a band leader, being a frontman, being a songwriter. These are all relatively new things for me over the last 7 years. So it's it's just a personal song about that battle, and about me kind of, just fessing up and going, look, I'm not perfect, but neither are you. So
I really appreciate that openness, man. Because I mean, it's everything that kind of you spoke about, all that negativity, is the opposite of everything, of all the positives we spoke about when you first came out into the light on The Voice. You know, that feelings of people attaching themselves to you and wanting to support you because you were one of them. You know, and Danny in particular. You know, we're all meant to be together. You know, and rebelling against maybe corporate music or whatever normal is. You know, we're meant to be the ones that are doing it. So it's such a shame that in moments like that, all of that is forgotten a little bit. You know, particularly like when you said about the racial abuse thing with Danny. Like when we spoke to Danny, we got such a good vibe, not just off him, but the overall togetherness of you guys as a band. You know, so it's sad that.
And me and him as friends as well. Like, I discovered Danny when he was 15, and he covered Until I Die on YouTube as a kid, you know. I saw the video and I was like, this dude is sick. He came to the Winery Dog show on our first ever tour. I met him, bumped into him in a vintage shop in Birmingham, and I was stood there with him and I was like, that's that kid from YouTube. And he was like, hey, I'm coming to watch the show tonight. And he was so cute and so little, and I just remember thinking, God, this kid's amazing. What a super freak of a person. And to think of his journey is that he went from being that kid on YouTube, then he came and teched for us on tour, and now he's in the band. Like, it's such a amazing progression, and a cool story. And to have him join the band and then see people writing that online, I just found so bizarre. Like, I'm used to it. And how awful is that I have to say that I'm used to it? I'm used to people being horrible to me. I'm used to it. You shouldn't ever have to say that. It just shouldn't happen. But Danny came in brand new as an 18-year-old kid and was dealing with reading these things about him. And I remember just thinking, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the rock community that I am proud to be a part of at all. David Coverdale, when his band changed lineup, he never had to deal with that.
Pre-internet.
Yeah.
Coverdale didn't give a fuck. He went home, he had a glass of red wine, he sat down, and he knew nothing of what anyone was thinking. People now, uninvited, like to share their opinions on what they think happened, and they have zero idea. It's just, and I don't mind that the opinion, Twitter is for that, it's for sharing your ridiculous opinions that no one gives a shit about, but you have to remember there's people attached to these, and when it gets nasty, it's damaging. And if Danny wasn't such a strong-minded individual, that could have had a really awful outcome. And similarly for me, but I'm not going to go too much into that. It was, I hope after all this nonsense of pandemic, people are really learning to be kind.
So, I mean, you spoke a lot about your attachment, particularly of everything we've kind of just gone through, and I appreciate you kind of reflecting back on that time because it's not the most positive, but kind of looking forward and looking at the album and the positivity around it. I mean, you mentioned that particular track, but is there any other tracks that, for personally, is your favourite on the album?
Oh, my favourite. I think the title track, "We Will Ride," is awesome. It's my favourite chorus I've ever written.
Wow.
It's just massive. It's just a massive chorus that you can hear people singing. And it's got a cool story. It was about a highwaywoman. I wrote this chorus about horses, and I was like, okay, who rides a fucking horse? I was like, I've written a line about horses. I'm not writing about cowboys. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to write... No, I've got to write about someone way more badass than that. So I went down the highwayman route, and then I found this one highwaywoman, and she was awesome. She was aristocracy, had loads of money, and then lost all her family's fortune. So she took to robbing and killing people on the way to London, and I thought she was a badass, so I wrote a song about her.
Yeah, I love her like that, man. For me, that's the ultimate thing. When you get into a song that you find out it's actually based on something that's actually happened.
Yeah,
I think that makes it so much more real. So yeah, 100%. I'll check that out when it comes out. So obviously, despite it bringing a lot of happiness to people during a difficult time, releasing an album during a pandemic is difficult. I mean, I know myself, with me and the boys in These Wicked Rivers, we released our debut album. It would have been during the first lockdown, and you have to get pretty creative, to try and reach out to fans in a different way, which I'm sure you've experienced. But now we're on the third lockdown, you've done yourself. I mean, when we did the interview with Danny, we was watching a lot of the live streams with you and Danny, and that's what made us kind of really link into the two of you's relationship, and that kind of maybe a bit of an Ozzy and Randy thing, which is an example of how you tapped into it. But what plans do you yourself and Inglorious have for this year to celebrate We Will Ride?
I don't know, maybe like a band OnlyFans or something, try and earn some money. I don't know. To me, I think it's more about letting this album really sink into people. This time where we're not allowed to go to gigs does mean that the consumer is able to really take all these riffs in, all these words in. So when we do eventually get to go back, they're going to know every word at the gig, and they're going to be really hungry for it. Because it takes a long time to love a song, to really know and love a song as a listener. It does take time. So we're doing that. And we'll eventually be touring that. And then also we started a new album yesterday.
Wow. Already?
Yeah.
I wondered why you were knocking about in the studio. I said to Ry, he's back in the studio already.
What's he doing? Your new one hasn't even come out yet.
It's because we're in lockdown, and when will we ever get this time again, So we thought, why not, while we're in lockdown, get the album started. The boys start guitars and bass next week. So yeah, it's just pretty exciting. And it's totally different. Not without giving too much away, it's not new material, and it's not our material.
Right, that's interesting.
So there you go. Moving on.
That's a right cheeky tease, that isn't it?
Oh, come on.
Now, Dave, as soon as I heard She Won't Let It Go, I was really locked into Romesh's mix, man. For me, it's the ultimate classic rock sound he's achieved with you guys. Is it the first time you've worked with him? And how did you find the whole vibe?
I found him amazing. Me and Ramesh would usually very pissed at award ceremonies, always talk to each other and go, I'd love to work with you. And he'd go, yeah, I'd love to work with you. And it happened for like 5 years. Every year at the Heavy Music Awards, we'd just be like pissed, shouting at each other in the hallway. And then finally, when this album came up, I thought, do you know what we really could do with a producer? Let's make something totally different, totally out of our comfort zone. And he is perfect. Like, he has such a great understanding of sound, and he's made this record sound really fresh. I hope you got that as well. It's big and classic, but it's also so fresh and so produced and super slick. And yeah, I've never been happy with my vocal sound in my life. I think he just nails everything. He's really great.
No, that's a killer recommendation. I saw a video where it showed you layering vocals for one of the tracks.
That's We Will Ride.
Was that when you were layering it, and it just sounded so killer, man. And like you say, it's the ultimate balance between that little bit of a vintage like spec, and that little tip of the hat, but then the power and the rawness that you need to really make sure that it shits on anything else that's on the radio. And I think that now you need that sort of marriage. So yeah, no, it sounds killer.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, one of the things that we're trying to ask people recently is to kind of find out what their lives are like beyond the stage. So what is an average week for Nathan James and his little pup of darkness, Ozzy?
Oh, I was going to bring him, but he's having a nap. We get up really early. I have lots of animals here on the farm. I live my parents have a small estate in North Devon that we moved here 3 years ago. It's this gorgeous manor house. This isn't my house. I'm not Roger Daltrey. Do you know what I mean? Like, this it's my parents' gaff, and this is my music room. So I have a little cottage here that I live in with the dog, and I've got 5 alpacas, 3 pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, peacocks, and they kind of keep me busy, as you can imagine. In summer, I cut the grass. I have a tractor, and that's kind of my job. 22 acres we've got here, so I spend my days with Spotify on in my ears, just mowing the grass and having a few ciders because I'm in the West Country. Yeah. Yeah, lots of going to the beach usually. Obviously, we're not allowed at the minute, but I live right on the corner of Exmoor, and I live 20 minutes from the beach. So I'm either at the beach or I'm wandering Exmoor and having a nice time and not really doing a lot. To be honest, especially this last year, it's just been great and awful. I've really enjoyed spending time with my family, but I'm missing my mates, and I'm missing that hot weather, that summer weather. You know, when first lockdown, when it was like we were in the south of France or something.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
It sounds like you keep yourself busy. I mean, I've got 2 chickens, and they're enough of a pain of the arse as it is. Never mind having like a few alpacas thrown in there and all that.
Hard work, man.
Yeah, that's it. It's a different detachment from the rock star lifestyle as well. Like, you know, sometimes I might like whack on the leather trousers and my twat out to go and do it, but it doesn't feel the same as going out on stage.
I look awful in the morning. Hair's up in a top knot, glasses on. Joggers, usually within 5 minutes they're covered in shit, so it just yeah, I think it's good balance, you know. And it's also balance living with my parents, because they're really down to earth and very humbling. So whenever I attempt to get above myself, they're very quick to bring me right back down to earth and treat me like a child, which I'm thankful for, because I'd be a nightmare if they didn't.
So in terms of creating your own identity as a frontman, Nathan, was there a specific person that inspired you in terms of how you are live and obviously your vocal techniques? You know, and obviously there's a lot of links to that 70s stuff. There's obviously quite a clear inspiration with Coverdale. I mean, my first gig was Whitesnake when I was only about 10 years old. You know, and Coverdale was always, particularly with Deep Purple, was a massive thing for me. You know, I just thought he was cool as fuck. You know, is that a clear inspiration, or was there a few different elements in there for you? Definitely
a clear inspiration for me. Like, I love him. But I like great singers. So my favourites were Paul Rodgers. I love Paul Rodgers. I love Glenn Hughes. I love guys that have soul. And Glenn Hughes has so much soul that when I first heard him, I actually thought he was black. Like, I remember thinking, Glenn Hughes could be a black woman, and I wouldn't question it. He's so soulful and full of like tone and richness, and I love him. Absolutely love his voice. Yeah, so I like those rock singers that are inspired by R&B singers and soul singers, which is all those guys, you know. Paul Rodgers especially. And I was lucky enough to obviously did an Imagine cover last year, and I messaged Paul and asked if he'd be on it, and he said yes.
Oh, amazing.
Like having, yeah, and then this Christmas just gone, he sent me a Christmas present. And I was like, who the hell's this from? Oh, Paul Rodgers. Like, just the maddest thing that's ever happened. After the worst year of my life, I got a Christmas present from Paul Rodgers, so it was all right.
Yeah, it instantly makes up for it.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Finally, this is a question that I like to ask everybody that comes on. A bit of a hypothetical one. If you could gig with any band, one from the past and one from the present, who would they be?
Band from the past or present? Band from the past. Oh, I would have loved to have gigged with Guns N' Roses, like in 88, 89. That would have. That's probably got to be the one. Them or Zeppelin, obviously. And then band from now is actually a female solo artist. I love Lady Gaga.
Right, cool.
Okay, it's interesting.
I think she's a badass, and I actually saw The Darkness open for her, and it was a really good hit because she loves rock and metal. You know, like she loves Priest and she loves Maiden. She loves those bands. So, yeah, I think she'd like us, and I just am obsessed with her. I think she's the closest thing I think our generation has to a Michael Jackson, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think plays, writes, acts. Just she's a superstar.
And it naturally crosses over because you're spot on. Like, she did a thing with Metallica like a couple of years back, you know. I mean, imagine that, like a GNR Prime and Lady Gaga gig and then Inglorious opening.
It's a crazy line out.
Yeah, I like it, man. A lot of sass. Yes. A lot of sass on the go. Loving it, man. Brilliant. Right, awesome. So Inglorious' new album, We Will Ride, is out everywhere today. Make sure you give it all the love, all the good vibes, and follow Nathan Inglorious on Facebook, Instagram. And thanks, Nathan. Thanks ever so much for your time, man. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
I really enjoyed that, man. Yeah, I think similar to, like, not to relate it too much because obviously it's important that Nathan's journey and Danny's kind of set aside, but it was a similar vibe where it was really enlightening to kind of have that kind of dive into that Inglorious world, you know, and see them different connections of where they're at now as the group of people that make up the band, you know. And if anything, I tell you what, I hope everyone gets the same vibe. It's only made me more excited for that new album.
Yes. Of course, as we said at the end there, it is available right now, today, out now. So go and check it out, of course.
All the love, all the good vibes.
Yes.
We endorse.
Yeah. You know, really interesting interview. What more can you say? You know, it's cool to have a podcast on an album release day. It's a first for us.
Yes, of course, and hopefully, you know, first and many more to come. You know, I'm a big fan of through releasing an album myself in the pandemic with the boys. You know, I know how difficult it is. You know, and I think the more we can bring the good vibes to Inglorious and other bands that are coming up and releasing new material, I think now's the time to do it. You know, If you struggle during COVID, you know, and you feel like you've lost that connection to music, really focus on trying to tap back into it to support these bands and become part of the family around that, particularly with new releases, because it's amazing that people are still able to get together and create music and put that out for us to enjoy. This is it, isn't it? And yeah. What more can you say? Oh, yeah, I summed it up so well, didn't I? Yeah, it pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? Well, you had that big word about 50 odd minutes ago, so I'll have the send off, and then we both feel like we've had our 3-course dinner.
Yes. So with that is all for this week.
Been a pleasure. Enjoyed it, man.
Tune in next week to find out what awesome guest we have next.
Yes, looking forward to next week.
Yes, again, another exciting guest. If you like our Facebook page, you'll find out who it is on Wednesday. And so, yeah, that is right round the corner.
Ta-ta for now.
Yes, we'll see you next time.